What if the feature you were bullied for your entire life suddenly became the very thing that made you famous? Imagine walking down the street and looking completely ordinary. Nobody stops. Nobody stares. Nobody knows that you possess something incredibly unusual. But then you open your mouth, and suddenly, everything changes. People look twice. Some people are shocked. Some people laugh. Some people cannot believe what they are seeing. And some people ask the question that millions of people around the world have asked. How can someone have a mouth that big? For one woman, this question became a part of everyday life. Her mouth was not just slightly larger than average. It was something she had noticed since childhood. Something that made people stare, something that made other children make fun of her. For years, she tried to ignore it. She tried to accept it. And at times, she even wished it were smaller. But life has a strange way of turning our greatest insecurities into our greatest strengths. The very feature that once made her feel embarrassed would eventually help her stand out from millions of people around the world. This is the incredible story of a woman whose extraordinary mouth became her most famous feature. And what she discovered along the way is something far more powerful than simply having a unique appearance. Sometimes, the thing that makes you different is exactly the thing that makes you unforgettable. At first glance, she might look like an ordinary person. If you saw her walking down the street, you might not immediately realize that there was anything unusual about her. She could look completely normal from a distance. But the moment she begins speaking or opens her mouth, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. The size of her mouth is extraordinary. And she has known that for most of her life. Ever since she was young, she understood that she was different. When she looked into the mirror, she could see it. Her mouth was unusually large, and unfortunately, children can sometimes be cruel to anyone who looks different. Instead of seeing her unique feature as something special, some people used it as a reason to make fun of her. She was given cruel nicknames. One of the names people called her was Big Mouth Bass Girl, comparing her appearance to a fish with a large mouth. For a young girl, comments like that can be incredibly painful. When you are growing up, you often want nothing more than to fit in. You want to look like your classmates. You want to avoid attention. You want people to see you as normal. But when one part of your appearance becomes the first thing everyone notices, it can be difficult to feel comfortable with yourself. For years, her large mouth was not something she celebrated. It was something she wanted to keep hidden, something she wished was smaller, something she believed made her different in the wrong way. But life would eventually change her perspective completely. As she grew older, she began to understand that being different did not automatically mean being less beautiful, less talented, or less important. In fact, sometimes being different is exactly what makes a person special. And after years of feeling insecure, she finally began to see her mouth in a completely different way. Instead of thinking about what made her unusual, she began thinking about what made her unique. Instead of trying to hide it, she started embracing it. And then came the world of social media. At first, she was unsure about joining TikTok. She wondered whether she was too old to start creating videos. She wondered if people would even be interested in watching her. But she also wanted something that would keep her busy and allow her to express her creativity. So she began creating content. She experimented with singing. She made comedy videos. She created funny expressions and tried to entertain people. She was not necessarily trying to become famous because of her mouth. In fact, she was simply doing what many other creators do. She was making videos. She was having fun. She was trying to be creative. But then, one video changed everything. In one of her comedy videos, she made an exaggerated facial expression. She opened her mouth in a way that made her unusual feature impossible to miss. And suddenly, people noticed the comments started appearing. People began asking questions. Some viewers were shocked, some were confused, Some simply could not believe what they were seeing. People began asking, "What happened to your face? How is your mouth that big? Is that real?" And she realized something. She had always known that her mouth was large, but she had never fully understood just how unusual it appeared to other people. The internet did. And the internet reacted immediately. What had once been something she had tried to hide suddenly became the thing everyone wanted to talk about. People became fascinated. They wanted to know how she ate. They wanted to know whether she could fit large objects inside her mouth. They wanted to know whether her mouth was really as large as it appeared on camera. And naturally, one question became especially popular. If your mouth is so big, how do you eat? That question eventually led to some of her most memorable videos. She began showing people exactly what she could do. And the results surprised viewers around the world. One of the most famous demonstrations involved food. She showed that she could fit an enormous amount of food into her mouth. At one point, she even demonstrated that she could fit 2 cheeseburgers at the same time. For most people, eating one cheeseburger can already be a messy experience. But watching someone place 2 cheeseburgers into their mouth at once was something many viewers had never seen before. The reactions were immediate. People were shocked, some laughed, some were amazed. And others simply watched the video edged because they could not believe what they had just seen. Her mouth had become a viral sensation. But this was only the beginning. The more content she created, the more people became interested in her unique ability. She began to understand that she had something almost no other creator had. There are millions of people online, millions of comedians, millions of singers, millions of influencers, millions of people making videos every day. But only one person can have her exact appearance. Only one person can have her unique mouth. And that difference became her greatest advantage. Her unusual feature became the thing that separated her from everyone else. People who had never heard of her before suddenly recognized her. They might not remember her name immediately, but they remembered her mouth. And in the world of social media, being memorable is incredibly powerful. There are countless creators competing for attention. Every day, millions of videos are uploaded. To stand out, you need something that makes people stop scrolling. For her, that something was already part of her. She did not need to create a character. She did not need to pretend to be someone else. She simply needed to embrace something she had spent years feeling insecure about. And suddenly, the thing she once wanted to hide became the reason people were watching. But the internet is not always kind. Even after becoming popular, she still received negative comments. Some people made jokes, some made cruel remarks, some people criticized her appearance. But there was an important difference now. She was no longer a child being bullied in a school hallway. She was an adult who had learned to accept herself. And instead of allowing negative comments to destroy her confidence, she began using her uniqueness as a source of strength. She began to realize that she could control the story. For years, other people had decided what her mouth meant. They had used it as a reason to insult her. Now, she could decide what it meant to her. And, to her, it became a symbol of confidence, a symbol of individuality, a symbol of turning an insecurity into something powerful. As her popularity grew, people became even more curious about the limits of her mouth. What could she fit inside it? Could she fit an apple? What about an orange? What about a large cookie? What about other unusual objects? To answer these questions, she began testing herself. With the help of a friend, she started trying different foods and objects. The first challenge was an apple. For most people, an apple is already a fairly large piece of fruit. But for her, it became a test. She positioned the apple, she opened her mouth, and the reaction was immediate. It was a shocking sight. Then came an orange. Again, the challenge looked almost unbelievable. The size of the fruit compared to her mouth made the entire experiment fascinating to watch. But not every object was easy. Some challenges were far more difficult. Some objects were simply too large or awkwardly shaped. There were moments when she tried something and realized immediately that it was not going to work. And that was part of the entertainment. The audience never knew exactly what would happen next. Would she succeed? Would the object fit? Would she give up? Each new test created another moment of suspense. She continued trying different foods, cocktails, snacks, large items. Even a bowl of rum became part of the experiment. The entire process was unusual, funny, and fascinating. But underneath all of the entertainment was a much bigger story. This was not simply a woman showing people how large her mouth was. This was a woman taking control of something that had once caused her pain. When she was younger, people had used her appearance to make her feel ashamed. Now, she was using that same feature to make people laugh, to entertain them, to build a career, and to inspire people who had their own insecurities. The more successful she became, the more she realized that her story was not only about having a large mouth. It was about acceptance. Many people around the world have something about themselves that they wish they could change. Maybe it is their height. Maybe it is their weight. Maybe it is their face. Maybe it is a birthmark. Maybe it is a physical feature that makes them feel different. And sometimes, the world teaches people to believe that being different is a bad thing. But her story challenges that idea. Because what if the thing you dislike about yourself is actually the thing that makes you special? What if the thing you have spent years trying to hide is the thing that could make you unforgettable? Of course, learning to accept yourself is not always easy. It can take years. Sometimes, the comments of other people stay in your mind for a very long time. A cruel joke made during childhood can still affect someone years later. But confidence does not always arrive suddenly. Sometimes it grows slowly. It begins with a small decision. A decision to stop hiding, a decision to stop apologizing, a decision to say, "This is who I am." And for her, that decision completely changed her life. Eventually, she began pursuing something even bigger, a world record. The challenge was to achieve the title for the largest mouth gape by a female. For most people, attempting a world record would already be an enormous experience. But for her, it was deeply personal. This was not simply about measuring the size of her mouth. It represented everything she had experienced. The childhood teasing, the cruel nicknames, the years of insecurity, the moments when she wished she looked different. And now, she had the opportunity to turn all of those experiences into something positive. In front of officials and experts, knowing that the feature people once mocked was now being measured as something extraordinary. The same mouth that had been used as an insult could now become a world record. The same feature that had once made her feel uncomfortable could now make her officially recognized for being unique. For her, that was an incredible feeling. She could finally look at the people who had doubted her and say, "Yes, I have a big mouth. But that is not something I am ashamed of. In fact, it is one of the most special things about me," and that message is powerful, because the world often tries to make people feel like they need to be the same appearance, the same style, the same personality, the same body, the same ideas. But the truth is that nobody becomes truly memorable by being exactly like everyone else. People become memorable because of what makes them different. Her story is a perfect example. She did not become famous by trying to hide her unusual feature. She became famous by embracing it. She turned the thing that once made her uncomfortable into a source of confidence, and she showed millions of people that being different does not have to be a weakness. It can be your greatest strength. Her story also demonstrates the power of social media. Before the internet, a person with a unique physical feature might only be known in their local community. Their neighbors might know them. Their friends might know them. Maybe people in their town would talk about them. But today, a single video can reach millions of people around the world. One moment can completely change someone's life. A person can go from being unknown to becoming an internet sensation almost overnight. That is exactly what happened to her. She was not trying to become famous because of her mouth. She was simply creating comedy and entertainment. But viewers noticed something unique. And once they noticed it, they wanted to see more. Her audience continued to grow. People began following her journey. They wanted to see her next challenge. They wanted to see what she could fit inside her mouth. They wanted to hear her stories. And, most importantly, they were swamped to see the person behind the unusual feature. Because, although her mouth was what first attracted attention, her personality was what kept people watching. She was funny, she was confident. She was willing to laugh at herself. And she was not afraid to show the world who she really was. That combination made her unforgettable. One of the most interesting parts of her story is the way she transformed her relationship with her own appearance. When she was young, she saw her mouth as a problem. Later, she saw it as a curiosity. Then she began to see it as an opportunity. And eventually, she saw it as a part of her identity. That transformation is something many people can understand. Sometimes, we spend years fighting against parts of ourselves. We wish we were taller, shorter, thinner, stronger, different. We compare ourselves to other people and convince ourselves that we would be happier if we looked like someone else. But comparison can make people forget something important. There is only one you, and the things that make you different are often the things that make you impossible to replace. Her mouth is not just large. It is unique to her. No one else has exactly the same feature, and that uniqueness became her identity. She began to use humor to take away the power of the people who had once made fun of her. Instead of allowing others to make jokes about her, she made the jokes herself. Instead of hiding her mouth, she highlighted it. Instead of feeling embarrassed, she turned it into entertainment. And there is a powerful lesson in that. When you are able to laugh at yourself, other people's insults often lose their power. Of course, that does not mean that bullying is acceptable. It is not. Words can hurt.